TimberSurf here with a brand new series about my adventures in 3D printing called Draw and Print. The reason being is that I'm actually a CAD designer and I will be doing as much work in the design side of it as I do on the 3D printing. I've had an eye on 3D printers for about 5 years now and pretty much locked into the Anycubic Photon and didn't actually buy one until very recently. And I've now actually gone for the up-rated version, which is the Anycubic Photon S, which has a double linear bearing so that it's more stable in the Z-axis. In this series, I'm going to concentrate as much on the design side of it as I do on the printing. You can, of course, buy a printer and just download ready-made models from things like Thingiverse. But I've found that there's a very limited selection and an awful lot of them you have to buy, and I'm not into that. So as a designer, obviously I can make my own designs, and that's pretty much what this adventure is going to be about. So some of them items that I can find, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. If I can find a design that somebody else has already made, then I'm going to download that and print it out, or I'm going to download the CAD file and adapt it to what I want specifically and print out my version. So let's look at what's involved. The first thing you start with is a 3D model that's designed in a piece of software on a PC. The normal things that most people go to are the freebie software, things like SketchUp and Tinkercad, and these tools are very good as a starting block, but if you want a more sophisticated design, they're going to be, well, difficult to use. So as I've already got 30 years of experience in AutoCAD, that's going to be my tool of preference. Once you've created a 3D model on the computer, there are a couple of intermediary stages before you can actually print it. Unfortunately, you can't just hit a button in AutoCAD and send it to the printer. So the first thing to do is to make it in a more universal format, and that's the .stl. So from AutoCAD, I can convert it and export it to an STL file. And I've now got something that most printers can deal with. In the Anycubic Photon S's case, I use a program that comes with it called Photon, and basically it does the job of converting the STL file into something that the printer can understand. And what I mean by that is that basically it chops it into layers, and it is the sequence of layers that the printer needs to be able to put the pattern onto the UV LCD that is then printed, and then you load in the next layer and it prints the next one and so forth, and it builds up the model in layers. So having worked out the sequence of events and having bought the Anycubic Photon, I did my first print. I bravely missed using their standard cubic little gizmo that they like to give you as your test print, because I thought it'd be a waste of resin, and immediately went for one of my own designs and was successful. Yay! So unfortunately the second, third and fourth print weren't. Now it has to be said that this is going to be a learning curve, and I know it's going to be a steep one. I obviously have the advantage that I'm already able to do 3D design, but getting it from the design on the computer to the printer is another story. There's lots of elements that I know that I need to learn, like adding structures underneath it to support it, printing it at weird angles and so forth, and getting the layers right and the settings for the layer curing time and the gaps between the curing. I'm still learning. But the first thing I did learn was that if you put rubbish in, you get no print out. And that's why the second, third and fourth prints failed. And the reason was I had something hanging out the bottom of the design. And when you import it into the print system, what happens is that it takes the lowest item as its base point. And unfortunately, it will print that one part, but all the other parts that are effectively up in the sky have no support under them. So it prints the first layer and then it just falls out the sky and all the rest of the layers fail. So lesson learned. Always check your model to make sure that everything you think is on a flat plane at the bottom is actually at the bottom. So having learned that, I'm going to progress and start trying out new prints. And in the second video, you will see some of the results. Print number 5 and 6 were quite successful. And then I had another failure. Yeah, it's the same file I keep putting in. I didn't realise why it was failing. I just kept trying different things, and eventually you learn that it doesn't always work, and usually because of operator error. So I'll see you in the next video, and I'll show you some of the prints that I've managed to get out, having learned a few lessons along the way. And I'll show you some of the failures and some of the successes of what I've done so far. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click that bell if you want to see the next part and where my adventures go. So I'll see you in the next draw and print. Ciao for now.